Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the January update. It's actually in February, but we're talking about what we have done in January from a ShelterBox perspective. Firstly, about the South Downs Scramble, which is happening on Sunday the 10th of April 2016. So all the overseas listeners have got a chance to come on board. Basically, ShelterBox are looking for people to enter into the South Downs Scramble. And it's based in the Seven Sisters Country Park, and that is just in Devon. You'll transport a ShelterBox collecting points along the way to be the winning team in this one-day orienteering challenge. 20 kilometres of trekking, which is probably about 14-15 miles, and some themed tasks along the way. The event will start at 7 a.m. on Sunday the 10th of April and it'll finish about 5 o'clock in the afternoon the same day. You'll need to be over 18, it says here, but I believe that the age has been dropped to 14 now. And you can apply, which you can do via the website under the events calendar sections. So, moving on to where we have been in January. Well, if you're looking at the map there, we are entering into one of the phases where the sun doesn't set on ShelterBox. Because in the east we've got a team who just come back from North Korea, and in the west we've got a team in Paraguay. So by the time the sun sets in Paraguay, it'll be getting up again in North Korea. We've got a team heading out to Nepal and one heading out to the Philippines very shortly after that as well. So again, the phase will continue where the sun doesn't set. And in the middle we've got Afghanistan, Tanzania, Cameroon, Niger, Greece, Syria and Iraq. But we'll talk about that as we go along. Okay, starting off in the west, we've got Paraguay. We've got lots of facts and figures on that slide for you. But basically, we've got the El Nino phenomenon, and that is sweeping south now as the spring season in the northern hemisphere and autumn in the southern hemisphere, as I say northern hemisphere spring that is, sorry, swaps around. And it's usually characteristic of a very, very big spike in rainfall, which has already started in South America. We have 2,000 shelter kits, and we've also got 100 shelter boxes in Paraguay, and we have had a few teams there. We've been operating pretty much most of January there. Difficult conditions because the floodwater has come up. It's receding a little bit, but they're expecting it to spike again. We're working with the Paraguayan Red Cross. And we've got an update video on the YouTube channel, and also if you want this presentation, there is an active link in it, so just send me an email at alfe, that's alfie, at shelterbox.org, and you can get this and do exactly what I'm doing and pass other people's work off as your own. But the challenges we're facing at the moment is one, the Zika virus. We've had some people come back with fever, and they are being tested for the Zika virus, so we've got the biological element there. The weather has been absolutely shocking at times. Floodwaters hampered the team's progress as well, and if you look at one of the update videos that one of the operational team leads, Luxton, has put up online, then you can see the kind of proper South American rain that they're up against. The Greek crisis, stemming out of the Syria crisis, which we've been involved in for over 3 years now. But the Greek crisis, we have a team in Greece at the moment on the Greek island of Leros, and they are looking also not just on Leros but on Kos as well. And it's on the peripheries. Previous webinars have gone into the moral and political arguments about whether we should be there or whether we're not. And we're looking to repeat that model to help process those refugees properly before they get into the European system. And the team has gone, and it looks like everything's being taken care of, or there's no room for extra camps, or more permanent camps are being put in. But we didn't know that until the team got there, and they're still investigating on cost, but it's looking less likely we'll do another Greek intervention. The team have just arrived back safely. When I say that, one of our operations coordinators arrived back in the UK and he's now on a bit of well-earned rest because being in North Korea is quite a strain because things are quite different over there. And our other ops coordinator has actually gone straight from that deployment to the Philippines to facilitate moving some stock out of our storehouses in Clark Freeport, which has come across some administration issues, which they look like they're going to solve, which is absolutely superb. Anyway, I digress. 500 Flex 3 tents went into North Korea, and interestingly enough, we did all the permissions on the top right-hand corner of North Korea. And by the time the aid had got there, the North Koreans had responded to that, but there were areas in the south that they believed the same disaster, the same storm that had gone through had still caused some damage. The people are living in collective centres and they're moving the people into those tents, and the team have overseen that. And they're going to be ramping up in the spring, sort of now time, because the weather is at, it's -20, -25. They've got the tents to do that, and they're going to move them out of their communal shelters in the next week or two. Nepal, that's been going on a while. We have tarps going out at the moment. The last dribs and drabs of those tarps, we're down to about the last 10% of tarps going out there. And we have the corrugated iron shelter kits also going out with one of our partners. The reason it's up on this slide is that we have a monitoring evaluation team going out there next week to basically see how that's going, what we can learn from that, and how we can move on, not only in Nepal but other deployments as well with that model. Again, we don't want to go on the different paths, but tents and boxes were banned by the Nepalese government, so we had to find a way to get to those people. And this is the kind of thing you might see a little bit of. Instead of just walking away from a situation where boxes and tents and imported shelter kits can't work, we'll try and find a way to help those people, because as much as I don't want to do that, I really, really don't want to leave people without shelter when we can do locally bought shelter kits and tarpaulin distributions. Tanzania, 1,000 ShelterBox have gone out in Tanzania, and we are basically monitoring the situation to see whether more election violence will cause more people moving over, and then we'll respond to that as we go on. Now, Cameroon, Niger. Again, violence in Africa, moving people around. 224 shelter boxes, 1,000 tents in Cameroon, and we're looking to put further tents and non-food items into Cameroon as the year goes on. And we have kit moving already. Niger, a very difficult place to operate. I've covered it before in previous webinars. Situation is ongoing. And we're going to look to continue that because that violence is never ending, unfortunately, in Niger. Syria, again, big upsurge in violence in Syria in the last couple of days. Offences, as you can read from the slide, Russians and Iranian offensives have moved people on, and we've got 15,000 people that we do know of at least heading towards the Turkish border as we speak. So we're putting together a team this afternoon to go to Turkey to see what we can do in direct relation to that, because that's a big surge of people coming across. The slide mentions unnamed agencies. For those that have missed it in the previous ones, it's because of their security situations. They prefer to remain nameless. They are large agencies, but they just prefer to operate that way, and we will certainly obey their wishes on that. Afghanistan, we have, we started off with some contingency plans for ACTED in Afghanistan, and while we were talking through that and the kit was moving, they were suffered with quite a large earthquake which caused quite a lot of devastation. So that contingency plan has moved into ACTED moving. Again, I would love to put volunteers and staff in there to oversee that, but Afghanistan is a little bit beyond what our security procedures and can cope with. Our main weapon is not being in the harm's way. We very rarely operate with armed support, and we certainly won't want to be putting someone into Afghanistan. But we use local partners who are better skilled and more knowledgeable in the local situation and how to move with a lot less risk. Now, as a special treat, the Philippines, we did 400 shelter kits in the Philippines recently in response to a typhoon. Now, because of the restrictions of the Philippines, we can't import at the moment because we're not registered there as a permanent presence. So we're working with partners to get that. And our team went out there to do the distributions with kit that was locally bought so we could check the quality. Make sure that, and it was Acted that we were working with, make sure that they work alongside our ethoses, and we had volunteers on the ground making sure that the distributions are done correctly, and we're sending another team to do another 500 in the next few days when those kits have been bought. We're looking at ways of how we can do the buying and the purchasing, but at this moment in time, the alternative is sit on our hands, do nothing, and people need us. So that's where we're going, that's where we're partnering, and that's why Acted is doing the local purchasing because they're set up for that, and then we come in and we distribute in tandem with them because our goals are very much in the same. So Liv has actually written to me with some suggested words, I think, and it's we got one of our staff to tell you, the audience, what it was like on deployment. And a couple of days ago, I spoke to Bill Woodard, who is one of our team lead volunteers. He lives on the west coast of the States, and he was out there in the Philippines just recently with Andrew Clark, and he is giving us some of his viewpoints on what was the same, what was different, and his thoughts on what we're doing in this. I don't call it a new way of doing things. It's just finding our way around the barriers to get that thing done that we do. I'll hand you over to Bill now, and he can tell you exactly all about it.
Well, in late December, Andrew Clark and I were deployed to the Philippines to address the shelter needs of families in northern Samar, an island just north of Leyte. Many of you are probably familiar with Leyte because that's where Tacloban City is located. The typhoon had taken place again mid-December. It was a Category 4, and the area that we were deployed to, there was from 90 to 100% of the homes either damaged or destroyed. This particular event, the Philippine government deemed or declared a national calamity, which meant that we could not import outside goods, and they also made it very clear that they did not want what they considered to be perishable response. Perishable included tents and tarpaulins. So we had entered into a discussion apparently last spring with a French NGO, which in the Philippines is an in-country NGO called Acted, and we've deployed with them, or we've partnered with them in Nepal most recently. They had proposed that ShelterBox enter into a long-term relationship with them whereby we provide shelter repair kits that are based around CGI material, around corrugated iron roof material, and wire strapping for building back better the homes that were destroyed. This is an initiative that started right after Haiyan in 2013 by a number of agencies. You may recall ShelterBox actually partnered or provided funds for a couple of agencies that were doing experimental work. The outcome of that was this CGI shelter kit, which included 16 sheets of CGI for the roof, included the hammers, the nails, the saws, all of the fixings, including some heavy wire that could be used for strapping the roof to the structure and the structure to the foundation. It also, a key piece of the whole component was the Building Back Better process that dictated less of a pitch on the roof, creating a structure that was able to better withstand high winds. So again, ACTED had proposed we enter into a long-term relationship. It was felt this would be a good time to test that. So ShelterBox funded the equivalent of 50,000 pounds for the purchase of materials in country to support this effort. Andrew and I were sent over to monitor the purchase of the equipment and to follow up on the distribution to the beneficiaries in the affected communities. In addition, we were asked to determine, make a determination if this had potential as a long-term program. We started with better understanding the program in Tacloban City with the ACTED people. Took several days to really drill down and fully understand their game plan and understand their long-term commitment to the community. We also recognized that with ACTED as a partner, again, this would give us entree to the Philippines, whereby we may not have it in the future with the Philippines' current policy of not soliciting outside help. We had the opportunity to go into the field, to watch the distributions, actually participate in the distributions, and then draw up our findings. And essentially, our point of view was that this was an excellent response to the needs of poor families in many of the regions we have serviced in the Philippines. We're dealing with coconut harvesters, fishermen, and farmers, all who, when an event of this nature strikes, lost their visible means of income. And oftentimes putting them in a tent isn't a good long-term solution, because the reality of it is they don't have the resources, and likely will not have the resources, to purchase the materials they need for rebuilding. This particular program addresses the most expensive and difficult part for them, and that is the roof and the strapping. In most cases, the lumber is readily available, and the coconut trees that got knocked down are salvaging the lumber of their old home. But the roofing, the fixings, the strappings, and the tools are not. So again, what we saw in this program was an opportunity to provide a longer-term solution than we had historically been offering at a more cost-effective, with a more cost-effective method. The kit solution is literally half the price of one tent.
Right. Thank you to Bill for that, and I hope you found that of interest. If you want more of that, please let me know. So keep the emails coming and keep supporting it, and I will see you probably March time, hopefully, when I can tell you what you have done in February. Thank you very much for your time, and I'll see you or hear from you next time.